They don't, they just are going to use less. They don't want to swap it out.
There is the corporate standard amount of each thing.
But there is, you can't,
For most of us, customers, they're going to be
there's, I mean, I don't know if you know,
face-to-face or
no, it's not easy, but there is actually some of these.
I'm all kind of visible for me.
Spice that up a little bit with chicken. A little bit of chicken. It's like a bacon steak.
Yeah, there's like that big project.
You need a little more, man. You tell me you got some money.
And I was just like, oh, yeah, no, but we're all like, no. If there was a few color breaks, I'd be all right.
They're better than I. Play VR games anymore? I haven't played VR games. I still haven't played Alex.
Yeah, so there was
Alex.
yeah, it's like
Got that when it came out. Still haven't played it. Valve, you know. Yeah, mine's something that's like 1-minute game. It's like a 35 year die last year. Well, one of the. Now I just use the one from work.
so Colin,
No, I do is
yeah,
big screen. Watch movies.
Oh, big screen, yeah, that's fine.
Call that a game. Yeah, I watch movies.
Nothing to do in Verizon. You go in there and just people jumping around.
But they don't try to solve the problem.
Is it on that?
They were trying to, but it's not takes and stuff. Very, very nice.
still, like a Swift, we're like, it has to be the whole value. Check it.
Everything good with the stream setup, audio?
Is the stream running?
Could you,
Good. 20 years out, it was like,
Yeah, it says May, that's good. It says Martin, that's good.
how many seconds are there? Oh, we got that, Zach.
There's another one that usually shows up, he's not here yet. So you put it right in.
Actually, the tickers for speculative theory.
I work for a defense contractor.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same here. I mean, not exactly.
I know what you mean.
Totally out of my head that it's the other
Lucky Palmer starts it out of time. Oh, some pile of bullshit. With AI. It's very easy to upsell people in the defense industry. Old guard tradition.
That's all the
AI is good now in defense.
Really?
He's all
I replaced it. Remember? Yeah.
The data centers come up with they got different regions.
Oh, you were the one with the, you shared
Chicago,
it.
California.
Yeah, I replaced it. We actually hired somebody.
Replace everybody from California.
It was actually pretty good. Especially if you're on the
What does it do?
Flip it shut, put it into that sleeve, yeah, and pull it out, and things just molten hot.
Yeah. Even if it's open though, it can't cool its through. It doesn't have enough air to blow out. No.
Dude, I don't know. I played games on it. Doesn't blow up.
It's wood grill on it. Like, well, my hands are sweaty.
Gets a little,
Yeah. It'd have to be thick, I think. Or do you get your head?
Really sweet, because if you could get, like, you basically bought that dish, or if you could buy, like,
I will still have my,
just a crash load of it's designed to just, like, snap onto the bottom. So you can use it as being, like, a laptop mode.
I think Matt or somebody actually got one of those NVIDIA ones where they shuffle the keyboard down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's old as well. Wasn't not great on it. I think I'd buy a Mac. Mostly use Mac, but I do have a friend. It's got a battery. Day battery. If you want to use free Android, you may for a short amount of time. Free.
way more interesting in my opinion. I like it over a lot, but.
It's portable. Used to be our Android keeps thing, where it was inside. So you don't need to. Yeah. Need to do the graphics. Exciting's happening over there.
Yeah.
Grab it.
You got a magic box.
Oh, it's a magic box. What kind of, yeah, like Rudolph and is it from you or from your kids?
I'm married. My sisters. Yeah, my dad passed away at the beginning of the year, so I've been trying to get that clean. So getting closer, but it's just like an aspirin from 1959. Like I sent it that picture to my wife. She's like, throw it away right now. That is so dangerous.
Yeah.
Do not go near it.
Give her the preview for a second.
What?
I'm trying to aim this at the Dr. View.
Oh.
Everything was so spaced out.
Talking kit from like 1983. Like, after
turn down the music.
That's actually really cool. It was like $800. It's really it was a full reading.
We are ready to get started. If you would all like to take a seat, anywhere you like.
Don't be shy. Come have a seat.
Grab a handful of chicken bake or pizza on your way to the seat, if you like. Chicken bake.
I thought he was saying chicken baked.
Bake. B-A-K-E.
Chicken eat that.
Chicken don't eat chicken.
What's it bait for? That's the question.
Welcome everybody. Who has never been to MNVR before? Three. Did you find us from the game dev meeting or something else? Game dev? Great.
Scott and I insisted that they come.
Oh.
At least 3 of them.
Well, I did once I walked in.
So logos here from left to right. The International Game Developers Association, IGDA TC is the Twin Cities chapter in the center, and MNVR and HCI, Human Computer Interface, Interaction, one of those two, Interaction. It's kind of a special interest spin-off group from IGDA TC. And here's our schedule. That's me talking now at 7, and Marty right after that. You've seen this if you've been at this meeting or at the game dev meeting or any of our events. Wouldn't be a safe and inclusive environment. If you have any issues, talk to any of the people you'll see pictured on the next slide, or if you don't feel comfortable, shoot us an email or hit us up on Discord. This is the board, and this now includes new folks on the lower row there from our recent elections. And then also a bunch of volunteers. If you're interested in helping out or just have some ideas, get in touch with us. Again, email and everything else across the bottom there of all these slides. Our regular schedule, we've settled in on all the Wednesdays. The long-running game dev meeting on the second Wednesday. Right now here we're on the fourth Wednesday, and we've been sticking to that pretty well. We used to kind of waffle around between fourth and fifth Wednesday, but it's a lot easier for everybody to coordinate if we stick to this. Fourth Wednesday wasn't so smart of me when we get to like November, December, so we won't have meetings then. We'll do some kind of a joint social with all the groups and all the special interest groups in early December. But aside from those two, we've got Devs Play Games, generally board games, at the Nerdery on the first Wednesday, and Twin Cities Playtest, which is video games, board games, a variety of stuff that's in development. And then special interest groups, a couple of notes here. Women in Games Gathering actually just moved to a Saturday, and the POC get-together is actually paused right now, looking for a new host. So if you know anybody that might be interested, get in touch. And a plug for the Discord. If you're working on something and you don't want to manage a Discord, like spinning up a Discord's easy, keeping the riffraff out is effort. You can get your own channel on our Discord if you'd like. And we're on to news and plugs. Cappy Oasis for Quest. RJ just released that yesterday, I think. Still in early access. Let's see how X treats us today for video. If I click that. I said X. It's shameful.
For those of you who don't know, RJ is one of us.
Yep. So I think this is a current meme, maybe? No, you fed. So it's kind of a virtual pet thing, taking the place of, what was the one that Meta just sunsetted this past year? They had one that had been out since 2016 that kids liked a lot, but left kind of a gulf. And he's also said there's kind of some features for content creators and stuff where you can actually puppet, you can be the Cappy and capture from a third person. It looks fun.
Where would we find such a thing?
That is on the App Lab today.
The new improved app.
The somewhat not hidden App Lab. Let's see if I can get back. There it is. Oh geez, it's a Mac. Green. F11, I give up. So yeah, so it's here, $5 if I remember it. And should be speaking, RJ should be talking about it next month. Slim chance that he might have to do it in July.
I haven't seen RJ for a while.
Yeah, they get a lot of kids, a lot of sitter needs to make it here. I think that's it for the ahead of time stuff. Anybody got just a random thing they'd like to plug? Verbal's fine, or I can pull up a website for you. What's that purple thing? Is that pluggable? Not yet. Okay.
Not a plug, but just for the newcomers to REM 5, a couple housekeeping things. Bathrooms are down the hall that way, and water is right over there. Feel free to get up at any time if you're thirsty.
Yep. And a big thanks to REM 5 for hosting us. Let's hear it for them. REM 5 for the mic.
Well, there's nobody here that actually works.
You got to talk into the mic.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I was just gonna be pulled website.
Okay.
I pitched it before, but gamedev.city, kind of a fun website for sharing links on stuff. People should totally check it out, post some things there, because it needs more content going through it. There's maybe like a dozen posts a week or so. I could totally use more. Basically just a link aggregator for cool blogs and videos and stuff that people find.
Say the name of it again.
Gamedev.city.
That's it, yep.
Cool. All right, last call for plugs. Oop, microphone.
RJ also has a game on the Apple Vision Pro.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right before you send it back. Yeah, we'll make him talk about that next month.
Yeah. Is he actually presenting next month? Did you say that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, 90% next month, otherwise July.
What's the game on the Vision Pro called?
It's called Balloons, I think.
That's the free one. He has another small paid one as well.
I don't know.
Just like a balloon popping game?
It's like it's keepy uppy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But so it's funny because it's like, well, I'll talk about it a little bit during my talk. Because it's in a volume. So like you can move it around, and then there's just like a number of balloons in the space. And you just have to look at the stats. It's actually way more fun than it should be.
I have a gullible friend who has a Vision Pro, so I want to play games today.
Oh. So always happy to hear what you got cooking, or if you know other people that are doing cool stuff, have them get in touch, or just give me their info and I'll bug them. Obviously we do VR, AR, all kinds of stuff like that, but also anything with custom hardware or unique kind of interface things. Yeah, so that's it. So without further ado, let's switch over to Martin. Let's hear for him. You good holding this?
Yeah, I guess. All right. Hold on, give me a second.
I was expecting a mustache or something. I haven't seen your lips in forever.
Whatever. Wait, what have you done to my computer? I don't know. Okay. Let's hit this.
Spilled a Coke.
All right. This is me here. I don't have these URLs across the bottom on any other slides until the end, but I will have them at the end again. So there's like the obligatory "this is what I do" slide. I was a web developer for a number of years. I did a single game in Flash, and that's when I started coming to this meeting, although it was, at the time, it was still the IGDA meeting. And then 2009, I started doing iPhone development. And then 2012, I started doing that full-time as a freelancer, as a contractor. So I've been independent ever since then. And I tried to structure my contracting where I was working on games at least half of the time. So I still kind of have, in theory, 50% time where I work on my own stuff 50% time, and contracts the other 50%. And then around 2015, I saw the VR coming. I actually blamed this group for that and was like, I want to start making that kind of stuff. So I started working in Unity deliberately to be able to build 3D things. And I did do a number of projects in VR. This is more about those. Like, I did a ton of
360 video players, which is just like a footnote at the bottom. But I did get to do some cool like 6th degree of freedom stuff. A couple of experiences that were part of the Super Bowl, more like trade show experiences. So I did, I don't know, handful, 4 or 5 or something. And 2 of them were for Super Bowl things. Another one was this cool one on the right. It was for Highway Credit Union, and they are a sponsor of Minnesota Wild. So if you went to a Minnesota Wild game for a couple years there and you saw a VR setup in the lobby, I made that game. We strapped a Vive controller to the hockey stick itself, so there was no, so a goalie stick, so the heavy hockey stick. And so there were no controllers, you just held the hockey stick and got to block shots in VR as people like kind of swam around in front of you.
And it was a hoot.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. That was a cool project, and we got to like work on it a couple of years. So we did, the first version was like pretty simple, and then the next year we got to like make it much cooler. And it had like a couple of phases where they would do different things. The goalie for the Minnesota Wild played it and said it felt real. I also worked on a game with a local team called Joggernauts that came out on the Nintendo Switch and PC and various other platforms. And so yeah, so all of my work was in Unity for a couple of years, probably. And in the very earliest parts of that, I was just prototyping, and one of the first things I made was for Google Cardboard, which was this game Puzzle Prison, and this is what I'm going to talk about tonight. So who knows about the Google Cardboard? Who doesn't know about Google Cardboard? I guess that's a better question. So it's funny because like, so I've already given this talk once to like the native iOS developer meetup, and like 2 people knew what it was. Like, it's hilarious that here everybody knows what it is. One important note is that the Google Cardboard was just 3 degrees of freedom, so it had no idea when you took a step left or right or moved forward and back. It was just a single point in the VR space, so it's a good fit for this game. I do have a trailer that I made. Oh, no. Will it play? I don't know how to make it play. Piece of shit. I wonder if it's not. Oh. I might not be online?
No, you are.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you were. Also, like, my cursor is no longer working. What is happening? Yeah, I don't know.
Put 4 fingers down and rotate.
Cool. What did you do to my computer, Zach?
Way to go, Wayne.
It's totally hard locked.
Is there, really?
Yeah.
No,
See if I can.
real video game and see what happens. Nice thing about new Macs is they boot fast.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
In Hardlock, really presentation.
Yeah, I've never had this happen.
Yeah.
I'm hope that helps.
No worries.
Does anyone remember what the key command is to reboot?
Hold the.
That's what I was just doing.
Power button a long time.
Okay, we'll give it a minute, I guess, but
Or at least 10 seconds.
okay. It's rebooting.
There you go.
Wow.
Does anyone have any more jokes at Marty's expense?
So Zach, I was going to interrupt like I do. I talked about it in particular. Years ago, they used to do this thing called, what do they used to call the thing at night? The middle of the night, in the middle of the summer, they call it cool art installation. Northern Lights Festival. We were having one of these meetings, and somebody from the Northern Lights Festival had heard that there was this thing called VR. It showed up to one of the meetings, and it was pretty fun because it became, they were wanting to have VR at the thing. And it was really fun because just like Marty did with holding their hands to where cardboard is, this person obviously had no idea what VR was and what was available and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to remember who it was. Somebody, here, I'll just take over. And that person wound up running it all for them. And it was actually really cool that year. But some of it was cardboard and other kind of, well then a year later they did a thing where they had stuff happening. And so, and there were a bunch of us, people in the know, who were out there doing it. You could get a cardboard, like at different, like it went between two different stations. At the station, you could get a cardboard. Not very many people were doing it because they're also using the LRT to go to other stuff. But we're in there doing it, like 2 or 3 of us. What are you doing? Oh, here. Oh, great. They would grab for, no, I'll hold on to it. I'm not going to hand you my phone. But it was real cool stuff. But just the idea that, you know, that this person walked in and didn't have a clue. And they got smarter by having contact with this group.
I thought, I was waiting for the punchline that I developed that app.
The second app. And the fun thing was it came out.
I was the developer on that, yeah.
The app that was right before I got there. He developed that. And I got I don't know if I got a version early or it was just released early. And I remember I was unemployed at the time, and it happens like on Saturday night or whatever, Saturday to Sunday. And I wound up going out on Friday at like noon and getting on the LRT and doing it during the day. In the back of the LRT with all these the kind of people you would expect to be riding the LRT at 11 o'clock in the morning. Just people who don't have jobs. And they were like, what are you doing? Oh man, don't worry about me. I'm okay. You know? And I was just all excited because I think I was one of the first people to use it in anger. So. and I texted Marky and said, it was really cool, it works.
Are you gonna play the video?
I'm gonna skip the video. Okay, so sorry for that intermission. No, for people who didn't hear it, another app that I worked on was this like cool experience on the light rail that like used the oh shoot, what's it called? GPS. Thank you. Use the GPS to know when you were going from one stop on the light rail to the next, and all it did was like queue up a 360 video in the app. So that was lumped into the 360 videos. So this is the game Puzzle Prison, like in the Unity editor, paused, like while the game is going on. So just in case you're having problems like visualizing, well, what is this game? Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about it over the video. So basically like what's happening is that it's just a block breaking puzzle game, like the simplest chain game collapse. There's like a million of them where you tap on a group of 3 or more of the same color and they disappear. So in this case, they fall down and there's blocks coming around the outside edge, like falling in to like keep the game going. And when one of the columns piles up too high, then it's game over. That's the game. I never actually released it. So I worked on this thing like basically the whole time I was doing Unity development. And as I was working on it, like there kept being new headset releases. And I would be like, oh, I should really make this thing for Steam VR, because now I'm like really excited about 6 Degrees of Freedom. And like then the Oculus came out and I'm like, I should really port this thing to Oculus because then you're not tethered. And it's like, and I just never launched it. I never released it. So even though it was playable that whole time, and I actually like showed it probably at like the most places of any game I've worked at. I showed it at like 2 or 3 years of maker fairs. I actually brought it to GDC one year and pitched it as part of like a pitch thing. That's the only time I've ever done a pitch thing. It was like speed pitching where you like pitch like 10 developers or 10 publishers in like a half hour or something. It was harrowing and really cool. I got a lot of good feedback, but no one said they wanted to publish it. So along comes the Apple Vision Pro announcement. I think did I say when? Yeah, so on this slide, in 2020, I started doing iOS development more or less full-time again for my freelance work. Stopped trying to do game development. I was sick of Unity at that point and said, I just want to do iOS development. It's much easier to make a living doing non-game work. I was finding enough game work to make a living, but not like enough to like feel comfortable, you know? And so I just was like, I want to feel like I have some buffer, and the pandemic happened, and I was just like, I'm just going to do native iOS. And so since then, I really have not worked in Unity, even though I have a couple of Unity apps that I'm slowly letting die. So in 2022, the Apple Vision Pro was announced. We'd known that it was coming for quite of a while, and I was really excited because finally I'll be able to mix these two things that I'm passionate about. I'll be able to make some VR work stuff in native iOS environments, and so I made a list. I actually have a game design journal that I write in pretty frequently, and so I was looking at all my ideas. I have so many VR games I haven't made yet, and I was like, maybe I'll just remake this game that I worked on for so long because it'll be easy. And in fact, it was really easy. I probably didn't spend more than 40 hours on this game. So I had some bullet points about why this was a good choice. Porting is obviously easier than writing from scratch. Super easy game to make, and I already had some cool audio assets that I never used. So I actually commissioned or worked with a musician that I'd never worked with before, but it just happened to be a really good fit. I love his work. He's got 10 albums on Bandcamp. He's really good, and I felt bad that I'd never released this work. Yes. His name's Drew Spiney or Spinney maybe. He's never come to the meetings. He's just some kid. At the time he was in college. Now I imagine he's not in college anymore because that was in 2016. But yeah, I really like his work, and still to this day, he's still releasing stuff, and it's really good. And so yeah, I felt bad about never releasing that whole album that he made for this thing. So looking at the Apple Vision Pro and its capabilities, we'll just run through this a little bit. There's basically three main kind of styles of thing that you can make in the Apple Vision Pro. There are windowed apps, and kind of every iPad app just works in it. So if you already have an iPad or you have an iPhone and you have some apps that you've already bought, or maybe you just want to download some free ones, you can use them in the headset. They're just going to be 2D in this 2D window. But that 2D window, if you're the developer, you can also put some 3D content in it if you want. This is actually straight from this URL. So the second type is like a window called a volume. And so the cool thing is that when you put on the Apple Vision Pro, you see the world around you, right? You see reality. It's an AR headset primarily. And so you can open these windows and then reposition them anywhere. But that means the developer actually has no control over where those windows are. So I can't say open this window. Actually, I can say open the window at this position, but then after it's open, I have no control over it. I can't say reposition it back at that point or anything like that. And the same is true of volumes. Yeah?
For the windows, if there's 3D content in them, are they stereoscopic or?
Yeah, so it's fully 3D. It kind of sticks out of the window. You can actually position it in 3D as well inside the window. So yeah, it is fully 3D content. Interestingly, Apple has a 3D game engine that they have had on their platforms for years called SceneKit, and SceneKit content is still 2D inside that window. It's actually a really hard problem if you think about it. So SceneKit was designed with a camera, right? Every scene that you create has a camera, and so if you think about it, most games are probably made, they're optimized where they know where the camera is, and so they're not rendering the stuff on the other side. If you were to just allow that window to be the 3D scene, what happens when I look over here, and then you'd never designed the stuff over there, right? So I get why they didn't do it, but it's kind of too bad, right? And also, I think there's a lot of developers who are just what? My whole game isn't going to work on this new platform? Fuck this. So anyway, so that's another. So the volumes are just like Windows, except they are made for 3D content. They still have a positioning bar and an X. So that's the two things that all the Windows have is a little bar at the bottom, you can move them around, and a little X next to it so you can close them. And I'll get back to why that sucks in a few minutes. And then the third type of content that you can create is the rest of it, the fully immersive space. So there's different flavors of that, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But one sucky limitation is that you can only have one space open currently at a time, and that's true. You can have unlimited apps open. It's just like your phone. You could open an app and open another app. But unlike your phone, they'll still be visible, right? You can have windows around you with different apps open, but you can only have one immersive space. Oh, I kind of just said all this stuff. Oh, except that I guess I do talk a little bit here about the style of immersive space. So there's full versus mixed versus progressive, and the full. Actually, I think I have a slide for this too. So let's get to this later. So I just wanted to. Actually, we can skip that. So VisionOS development requires Xcode 15.2 or later, but 15.3 has been released, so probably I don't even know why I have that bullet point in there. Each version of Xcode comes with a specific version of Swift, so you're kind of like pinned to that version unless you download Swift separately. You don't have to know about that either. Swift 15.4 is currently in beta and is probably going to release before WWDC, which is like, or maybe at WWDC, which is soon, June, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so probably everyone will switch over to that at that point. There is probably going to be a new version of VisionOS with WWDC as well, or at least that's the rumor. So Apple could be adding a bunch of cool new stuff. Who knows? So this could all be obsolete by the time that happens. There is an app called Xcodes, notice the S at the end, that helps you manage the version of Xcode on your computer. It's pretty cool. It used to be cooler, I think, than it is now, but it's still worth, if you're doing any Xcode development, I think it's worth having.
Does Apple have a tool for doing that now?
I don't know. I don't think so. Does Apple, what was the question?
Doesn't Apple have a tool for managing all those installations now? Like, because they had Xcode Select forever. Like,
Yeah.
build stuff. And I thought they had another tool that kind of went along with that, where they're like, well, why don't we just make another tool that automates it?
If they do, I do not know about it, and that would be hilarious if so. I know Xcode's under the hood when you can like activate each version of Xcode, and it just calls Xcode Select under the hood. But the other cool thing about Xcodes, having Xcodes manage your installs of Xcode, is that it downloads them much faster than if you just download them from the Apple website, because it just does some like looking at mirroring and then getting them from multiple sources and stuff. It's like literally like over my, Xfinity, it's like 2 or 3 times faster than if I download it directly from Apple. So this is like the new project window in Xcode, and the important thing here is that there's like tabs, and you can click the VisionOS tab, and so then it like all the options here are just different project templates, and I think the important thing here is that when you choose these different options, there's initial scene, which is like either window or volume, and then there's the immersive space renderer and the immersive space options. And it's important to sort of think about what kind of app you're going to build when you're actually creating a new project. And the reason for that is that, so this is the only difference when you say like window style, window versus volume in code. But it doesn't work to just comment it out. Like if you, this will not work. So it just throws an error. So obviously there's more changes that are happening than just that one difference in code. But it's like all happening in the project file itself probably. Like we could diff the project file and I'm sure we could see what the differences are. But it's not, basically you have to choose before. So when you're creating a volume, this whole slide is basically about one issue, which is that volumes are kind of half-baked. So there's this setting deep in the settings app of the actual VisionOS that allows you to change the window zoom level. And the only thing that changes is actually how big something is in those volumes. And if you don't resize the content of your volumes, they'll actually get clipped if someone changes this setting in their OS. So like, the default one is large. If your 3D content takes up the full volume size and you don't resize it with the scale that it gives you, and someone sets it to small, it will clip that content. Like it's totally dumb. Yes.
So it's like when you resize your browser window, just make the text smaller. That's what you're saying you usually want to do with volume.
Right. So if you don't want your content to be clipped, you would have to like watch for, I think it's like the scale setting or something, and change your content size based on that. And there's a blog post about it that I linked down here. But basically, like, it just feels a little half-baked, is what this point is. I don't remember what this slide is for. This is just saying that the content view itself, so for those who don't know, SwiftUI is Apple's hot new UI framework. It's declarative. So basically, like, you just say, like, oh, I want some text, and it's going to be this, and then it appears in the right place. So this, on the left here, you can see, like, kind of the model 3D, and that is pulling in this scene from a bundle called the RealityKit bundle, and oh, here it is a little zoomed in. So you can see, like, there's some text that says hello world, and that's in a V stack, which is a vertical stack. So this is just what SwiftUI looks like. And essentially this same code without the 3D content would work on any of Apple's platforms. Like and maybe even the 3D content would too, I'm not sure. But say, like, you want to know, like, what is a model 3D, you can option click on it in Xcode, and you can find out a lot more information about it, which is kind of a cool aspect of working in Xcode. And then if you open that like pop-up that happens will have a button at the bottom that says, like, open in developer documentation. All of this is also on Apple's website. Like, this is exact same content, but you can open that right in Xcode. It's all, like, kind of bundled with Xcode. And one of the points here that I wanted to make is that on the left, you can see, like, you know, Model 3D is part of this, you know, RealityKit. Like, there's an open tab to, like, see all the RealityKit documentation. Well, there's articles in here too, and the articles are really worth reading. Like, Apple has done an excellent job with documentation. This is by far the best documentation I've ever seen for any VR platform, hands down, easily. And it's not their best documentation. I think they have better iOS documentation. I think, you know, Apple's documentation is kind of all over the place. Like, some of it's really good and some of it's like, you know, yeah, the fact that that property exists is documented, but it doesn't really say why or what it does, or, you know. But I think that this is pretty good, and particularly the articles about that they kind of intersperse in here. They've thought through some issues that I think, like, no one else is really thinking about. So you might have noticed this, like, RealityKit content bundle. Like, what is that? You can also option click on that and see, like, where it's defined, and there's a lot of stuff here about doxy that no one cares about. But if you follow it, if you go into this RealityKit content.swift, it's just a file that defines that it's in this bundle. But you'll notice that, like, Apple has included in this, like, again, this is just the new project. This is still, like, I just created a new project. They include a package that's, like, a separate thing included in this new project, and that is, it's called RealityKit content. And if you can see, like, what's in that package on the bottom here. And if you click on, like, scene.usda, it'll show you, like, a preview of the 3D content that's in that scene. And then there's this big button at the top that says Open in Reality Composer Pro. So Reality Composer Pro is essentially Apple's version of Unity. Like, it's like the scene view in Unity. So it's, you know, all of your 3D content that you want in your game, maybe, potentially, you could throw into Reality Composer Pro. You can also open it using, like, Xcode, Open Developer Tools, and then Reality Composer Pro. So RealityKit is entity component architecture, a lot like Unity, and you can view that component structure in Reality Composer Pro. And here's what that looks like. I'm not going to talk too much about this, just, like, know that it exists. And, like, if you love working in Unity, there's kind of an equivalent in Apple's frameworks and tools. It's this program. And you can see on the right, like, are your components. One really cool thing, and I think I actually have a slide about this. Yeah, like, the transform, right next to position, it says centimeters. That's actually a drop down, and you can change it to, like, inches if you want, or, like, any, you know, you can change it to meters. And those are like the real size of that thing. This is the only 3D engine framework tool thing that I've ever worked in that actually had sizes attached to the geometry of stuff. I think that's kind of cool. And then again, like the default scene just has the sphere in it, but you'll note that it also has collision on it, and it has an input target component on it. And so that allows you to like get, you know, a click basically from it. I just wanted a quick slide about another tool that Apple has, and it's an additional download. It doesn't come with Xcode, called Reality Converter. And all this does is convert 3D files into like basically any format that you want into Apple's preferred format, which is USDZ. So if you have a bunch of 3D files, or any 3D files, and you want to use them, they have to be in this USDZ format. So Apple made a program, and actually they released this in 2020, like long before they announced the Apple headset.
Is it just geometry, or is it also scenes?
Full scenes, yeah. So it does.
Like FTX or something?
Yep. Anything you throw at it, it'll convert.
Does anyone know much about the USD format?
Mark Jensen does.
Tiny little bit. What do you want to know?
I mean, it's like it was made by Pixar for making movies, or Disney for making movies, one of the two.
Yeah.
And like, gosh, some part was going like, does that work well for this sort of stuff? For not making movies? But
If you know the history of Pixar and how they handle code and stuff like RenderMan and things like that, I bet you it's just great.
Yeah. So my understanding too is that Apple has worked with it. It's an open standard for one thing, and Apple has like kind of worked with it from the beginning as well. So I think that's part of the reason they've adopted it. I don't really know.
I just
Yeah.
wonder if there's a bunch of like really weird esoteric features that just don't apply.
I don't know. I do know that one thing that it is really good at is pointing to other USDZ files. So you can have just like, you know, kind of your, what does Unity call them? Like the, like prefab. You can have your kind of prefab structure made out of USDZ files. Yeah. Did you have a question?
I mean, like, if most of your workflow is in Blender or whatever, are you constantly running through this thing, or is there some automated way to do that?
I mean, so Blender definitely will save USDZ files.
It does,
Yeah.
but it doesn't support rigs.
Oh,
It doesn't support what?
rigs.
Like armature.
Rigs, okay.
That seems important.
Yeah, it does. I also have.
Converted to scanner, or just not at all?
Scan.
Scanning,
Oh,
where it's like
Oh, it's just the armature tree hierarchy.
How does Unity even work?
Because there's usually so many layers to it.
Yeah.
You'd still have a skeleton in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of the most complex export type files because it's supposed to be like Maya to Blender 1-to-1 format. Like that's the goal. But like if you can import like a GLTF and it converts it to that, then that's probably the.
Yeah, I have heard that that working with files that have rigging is a pain point. I haven't done any of it myself, so I don't know anything about it. But I have been tempted because I do have a Unity project that I worked on for this. It was actually for the Science Museum. That was like just like a hand, and you can do. And so I have this cool hand model that I could just like see if I can get working in this, and I think that'd be kind of neat because I don't know if I have any slides about it. I actually don't think I have any slides about it, but Apple has a version of what they call ARKit for the Apple Vision Pro as well, and it's different from the iOS ARKit. So it's not really, you can't just take your same code from an iOS app that has ARKit stuff on it and it'll just work in the headset. No. But so if you want to get at things like the hand tracking and you want to see like the geometry of the room around you, that's the API for that. This is called ARKit. And what was my point? Oh yeah, so like you can do hand tracking with ARKit, and you can get it's got some really cool APIs to get at like each finger's position and stuff like that. And there's actually an example project that I'll point out later that does like a custom hand gesture. Like it's got like a heart gesture in it. and it's like, so like they clearly want people to do that kind of thing. Okay, but finally, let's talk about immersive spaces. Here are the three options, and where I was going to talk about them briefly. There's mixed, meaning that your content is shown over any sort of reality around you. So again, like when you put on the headset, you see everything around you. So if it's in mixed, your content is shown, but then like so is everything else. So you see all the people and all the, you know, the walls of your room that you're in. Progressive means that the digital crown, which is like a little knob on the top of the Apple Vision Pro, it's a crown.
Rolex watches have crowns. It's a crown.
That's an analog crown.
This is a digital crown. So it controls the amount of your content, and this is a little bit confusing. And all these are confusing, I think. But like, basically, if you've got a full 3D scene, like all around the user, not even talking about like a photosphere, even just 3D content all the way around you, and you dial down the digital crown, what it's doing is it's actually occluding all of that content until it's like in like just a space in front of you. Like if you turn it all the way down, it's just, your 3D content is just in front of you. This is kind of weird. Like, I don't even know why you would want to do that. Like, I guess I can kind of imagine if it is a photosphere, like if you're in a full like immersive photosphere scene, for example, and you're like, oh no, I still want to be able to see this part of my room out of the corner of my eye or something, then I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. So progressive, I don't really understand what the use case is for it. Yeah.
My feeling is they did it because it looks cool. Because it does look cool.
Okay, it could be just because it looks cool.
Video player apps probably can use it quite a bit, just to, you choose whether it be in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
So now I'm confused. Are you saying it's sort of like fading in and out, or are you saying it's like your field of view of that? It narrows your field of view.
It narrows your field of view, yeah. Just of the 3D content that your app is creating. And then full means it's fully VR. There's no AR scene shown at all. So that's the only time that you would want to use that, is when you're creating a fully immersive, like, you know, some kind of game or something, I don't know. And oddly, they're really like discouraging that use case. And there's not very many of those in the App Store. There's almost nothing that I know of.
It's not VR, it's spatial.
Yeah, you can't even say, like they have in their documentation, like, don't call it VR. So again, when you create these kind of projects, you know, there's a template, but it pulls in like a lot more boilerplate when you create an immersive space. And part of that is because you see this like on change of bit at the bottom, and I think I go zoom in on that. Why do I have the numbers here when I don't have any content about them? But so this on-change handler means that so actually because it's got a task in it, that means everything is happening asynchronously. So it's like, this is gonna happen in a different thread. So basically what that means is that when this changes, when something in your UI toggles this like show immersive space is just a Boolean, it's saying, so if that, then you know, open immersive space. So that could take a while to load or something. So it's gonna happen, like, it's kind of out of your control once it's in this task. I don't know what would happen if you didn't put it in a task, but their example puts it in a task, so you might as well. And then that open immersive space returns like an enum, and so an enum value, and you can switch on it, and you can see like, oh yeah, it opened. So in that case, then it's gonna make that Boolean true. And then if there's an error, these are canceled, or something else happens, who knows what, then it just like defaults to, you know, say it's not open. But then also there's this like dismiss immersive space, and these are both like part of what Apple calls the environment. So just a fancy way of saying they're like globals that Apple added, and I don't love the way they did this. Basically, it's not a true API. It's like there's just too magical. But this is what you have to do to open an immersive space. Like there's no other API for this. It's kind of gross. And heaven forbid you have multiple windows open. So I'll talk a little bit about this. So this is the immersive view itself. Really simple code. I mean, all it's doing is essentially what we were doing inside our window before. We're just like pulling in some content from this like RealityKit bundle. And it's the bundle is exactly the same. The only difference here is that there's immersive.usda in addition to the scene.usda. And whatever 3D content is in that immersive.usda, that's what's gonna go into this immersive space. You can also totally like make your own, put your own stuff in that block that was shown, that like reality view. Instead of like adding a scene from RealityKit, you can, or Reality Composer Pro, you can also just create your own stuff in there. And so like I actually did this example, you know, it's just like 3-4 loops, and I was changing the color of the material. And like I did this before I had a headset, and just to like test out like, oh, I can draw stuff programmatically. And actually Apple has a couple of articles about how to draw stuff programmatically. So I was like, yeah, this is a great, totally valid use case. Here's all the code for that example. And when I gave the talk last time, I had not actually tried this in a headset, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure it doesn't run performantly in a headset. Like there's 100 objects just randomly in the scene. One thing that's worth noting is that I had to create the mesh outside of the loop. So it's reusing the same mesh for all these objects. But the material is based on the color, so it's based on the loop. So it's creating materials inside, and it's totally fine. It happens basically instantly. So I tried it today just for fun in the headset. Totally performant. You can, no slowdown whatsoever. And each of these spheres is like, I don't know, some ridiculous number of triangles. Like somebody told me there's no way that's performant because these spheres are huge. Worked fine. So I was actually pleasantly surprised by that.
How many materials?
So it's 100 materials, right? So it's a different material for each one. It is 1,000. Yeah, and it worked fine. And it worked fine. Yeah, you can see the material being created like right in this like closure right there. I don't know if you can see my mouse. I can't see my mouse, so I don't know why you could. Yeah, so just simple material, and then I just like initialize the values right in there for the color. And then I said, is metallic true? And yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say. And yeah, this example was before I owned a headset. It was just the first thing that I did. So okay, so I knew that I could programmatically create my content, and you know that was basically all I needed. So for Puzzle Prison itself, like I tried to move as much out of this, you know, the file that is the view itself as possible. I ended up with 2 environment variables, 2 globals. One is for the game that kind of keeps track of like whether the game is running and has all my state in it, and then another one that's just like menu data, and that's your standard like observable object if you know what that is. Inside this is like my game object. I probably should have named this better. I have like a manager object that is like more about the game state itself. But this really should have been the manager, and hold on to the manager object. It doesn't matter, it's all loosey-goosey. What was my points here? Yeah, so here's the like kind of the root entity. So like what would have been in my you know, Reality Composer, I'm just creating programmatically, and root doesn't have any components on it at all. It just has things added to it. So all the game objects that I create. And actually there's 4 what I call facets. So I add all the blocks that are added to the game programmatically get added to a facet, and that just is the like one of the walls. And so then, but even before the game starts, like I've moved just the facet to be in its position. So they can all be like really easily positioned just based on an X value. And then they all just get rotated around the player so that they're just in the right spot. Yeah. I did put in, I don't remember what my point was here. SwiftUI is great, I guess. This was a bug that Scott pointed out. Like when the tab view is open, you like it kind of is cut off by the 3D-ness of my logo, which is kind of annoying. But it's funny because if you open one of the other windows, like if I open the like music or audio menu, the tab view occludes that menu. So it's like, it's just how Apple made the tab views work in VisionOS, I guess. It's kind of dumb, but it's fine.
Is that because it's in a certain physical place? Because like it's not being included by the back of the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So it's that it's like on the plane of the window, whereas my logo is fully 3D, so it sticks out of the plane. And so, but even like if you look at it from the side, I should have actually taken the screenshot from the side because you can see that tab when it's open, because it actually, it's hard to describe, but basically the tab just shows the icons, and then when you hover over it, and hover is just looking in VisionOS, when you look at it, it opens up and shows you the names, the text also, and that actually like cuts into that logo, like it's like inside the geometry. It's fine. But yeah, if you cared about the details, it's a little bit harder to do all that. I mean, it's harder to polish, I think, SwiftUI, but it's really easy to make stuff work, and like just to add stuff to the scene. Oh yeah, so here I talk a little bit about how initially I was gonna use a separate window for each of these tabs, and it is pretty easy to make those windows, but it's really hard to like manage when they're open or not, or like you have to like basically like watch variables on each window for when they're open. And I ended up having to do that anyway, and I'll talk about that in a second, but it's easier to just do for one window, so then I made them all tabs in the same window. So this is something that I like kind of iterated on a lot over the course of development, but what's annoying is that, okay, I'm gonna describe this, I don't know, we'll see how this goes, but essentially like, remember how I said every window has an X button? So I keep that same window when the game is open, and it becomes the pause window. And so like, there's a pause button on it, and it has the score. And again, I was gonna have that be its own window, and it's like got, you know, nice and separated code. But then like, when someone closes it with that X, I have to watch and know that it's being closed. And then, what do I do, right? So like you're in the game, but like you don't know how to get out of the game. Like there's no way to like, I mean, you can press the home button and then you're back on the menu of the VisionOS. But like, so essentially I have to watch that, I'm not gonna describe this well. And actually this might not even be the slide that I was gonna talk about this on. It doesn't matter, sorry. I feel like this was gonna be a long, boring story, so I'm not gonna tell it. But yeah, that could still be improved, basically. So when, a couple of just notes about releasing, taking screenshots is sort of easy in the simulator, like you could, it's just like Command S, but then they're not actually the right size for the App Store submission, which is really annoying. So I can like open them in Photoshop and then resize them for App Store submission if I want, but like, but also the lighting is different. So like you can see at the top here, like the lighting is actually coming from the scene. Like Apple's like really interested in like I don't have any lighting details in my 3D scene at all. It's all coming from the environment or like the AR scene. So it's interesting if I like, even in my house, like move into like into the window where the light is coming in, the content that I'm seeing, like the 3D content in my game will change colors. Like I can see it like change hue basically like as I'm like moving around in a space that has different lighting. So again, like this screenshot was taken outside. The colors are really bright and vibrant because there's actual like daylight. And then this one up at the top is like in the simulator. So, and I actually I ended up using that top one even though it sucks comparatively because I just didn't get a good screenshot of my logo outside for some reason. Yeah.
So does it? I mean, does it look as bad like in the headset?
In the
Or does
headset,
it-
you don't
or
even
does it look
notice. No, it looks totally fine.
It's lit as if it's in the, like, you know, this book in here that looks, you know, dull, it's not quite bright. You bring it up in the bright sun, it'll be really bright. It does that really well where stuff looks like they fit in the scene. It's just, like,
It's hard to capture that, or like when you see it in a screenshot, it doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Is it like when you're in a simulator, is it always as if the environment was totally black, or can you like upload your own like HDR sphere?
It is possible actually to replace the contents of the simulator scenes. There's like 2 or 3 like options that you can use. And then, and even within those scenes, there's different lighting as well. So where your content is being shown inside the scenes actually does affect the lighting of your 3D content, even in the simulator. And yes, it is possible to replace the contents of the simulator, but it's not like, it's not well documented. That's like something somebody figured out.
So if you wanted to see your game better, you could literally just go turn on your lamp.
Yeah, yeah. But then, and I think I mentioned this in my second bullet point, like the real way, the best way to capture a screenshot is with your headset paired to the computer, and then in Reality Composer Pro, there's an option to capture a screenshot. And it's the right size, and it's also, the other thing about it is that you can take screenshots by pressing both the button and the digital crown on the headset, but it's got the foveated rendering. So it's like where you're looking is gonna be like really crisp and clear, and then the other stuff is not. So you don't, it's not great.
look at that closer again.
It's like dumping the frame buffer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like taking it's a screenshot of what you're actually seeing. Okay, so this is the worst slide in the whole.
You checked today?
I did check today. What's sad is this is the same slide from when I gave this talk a month ago, and it has not updated.
So how much does it cost?
It's $5.
What's the cheapest?
So here's the thing though, I mean, I could put it in free, I don't know, I don't think it would matter though. Like, there's no way to discover it in the App Store without searching for my name or searching for Puzzle Prison. The App Store is terrible, there's no way to browse everything.
I mean, what's your competition? Like, is this like 10% of the market?
Yeah, well the estimate is that there's only 100,000 of these in the wild, is my guess. So, I mean, I don't know what.
Just as a general question, how are they doing?
Well, so how would I know, right? Like I don't have any insider knowledge, but I will say, there was a lot of like rumor mill news about a month ago about apparently there is some scaling back of production. So whether that means they just aren't selling as many as they thought, or whether it means they're not going to have a Rev 2 next year, which has like been rumored before and maybe might not be the case anymore. I don't think they're abandoning the product line entirely. I mean, I hope not, but it might be that they're scaling back.
Say the number
Also,
again. Oh, go ahead.
there were 100,000 in the wild, is my understanding, at least that we know of. Right. And so the other indicator of how they're doing is that the woman who is in charge of marketing for all the Apple Vision Pro stuff has left Apple. Whether that was of her own, like who knows why exactly, but I don't know. It's, yep.
She did not see that.
Quite possibly. So again, I mentioned that there were 2 sample projects. They're called Swift Splash and Happy Beam. So on the positive side, like these are both really cool. I don't think they're like, the best examples of coding in the world, but like you can learn a lot by looking through these code bases. On the negative side, like I tried to compile Happy Beam and it no longer compiles, which was like, come on, you can't keep it going even like 6 months. So I don't know what it would need to get it working again, but like just 1 or 2 iOS revs or VisionOS revs, and it already doesn't work. It's too bad.
That's kind of an experience I had with a lot of Unity stuff, is that like some stuff all of a sudden stopped working, and it was like, oh,
Yeah. For sure, this is not like a problem unique to Apple's sample projects, but it was disappointing.
They only have 2 sample projects, or those are just?
There are, I think there's 4 total. Those are the 2 good ones. One is like building a 360 video player, which is not much code actually at all. It's pretty easy. This I wanted to plug because I love it so much. I use it for mostly for 3D printing, but like anytime you want to specify 3D geometry like exactly, it's easier in my opinion to do that in code. This is what that allows you to do. But one thing that's really cool about it is all on GitHub, and it's built on top of another package maintained by the same guy, Nick Lockwood, and that's called Euclid. And you can include Euclid in your project. So you could just have this like basically 3D geometry creation toolkit in your project. And I have like some ideas that might use that someday, but like have not built any of them. But it's just a really cool thing. And this was like my #1 resource while I was doing any development at all, was this Discord. So it's the Apple Vision Pro Discord. It's associated somehow with like Reddit's R Vision Pro, but it's got a bunch of developer channels, and they're still pretty active. Like there's a lot of people, maybe a few people who are in there all the time, and like people come in to ask questions all the time. Like it was very helpful. And there's Apple people that hang out in there too, so pretty neat. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, no. I did bring it. Do you want to see it?
Try the video. I want to see if it crashes your.
Oh yeah.
Should work.
It is an Apple computer.
Marty, is there any numbers out there of like a game that's doing well, how many it's sold?
I don't know how I even trigger it. Like, it's just a link to YouTube.
Hey, some started.
I'm sorry, what was your question there?
Is there any numbers out there for any app, like one that's doing well?
Not that I've seen.
Anything? Like yeah, it sold this many, how many were developers, how many bots people bought things? Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but also I like haven't really looked for that either.
If they're not spotlighting any apps, probably need a pretty hefty marketing budget to actually get seen here.
Well, so they are featuring apps, but my app is not featured, so there's no way to see it. Yeah, actually, so that's a good note. That the App Store does have features, and all it has is essentially articles. So if you look at like the iOS App Store, it's similar. It's just on a much smaller scale. So there's like, I don't know, a dozen maybe articles that are just lists of apps, and that's all that's in there.
How do you get into one of those, or do you not know?
Well, so yeah, I mean, it's very opaque, like you don't know really, but there are several things you can try to do, and it's just like getting featured on iOS. So there's like, there's a form that you can fill out, and they encourage you to fill it out like every time you do an update, basically to say like, hey, here's my app, I'm doing another update, this is what's new, I'm using these cool Apple iOS features or whatever. And I do think like spotlighting or highlighting that you're using OS features, that's one thing Apple really likes to see, and that will get you noticed. And another thing is to have really cool art and just look cool. And definitely I'm not doing either of those things right now, so not terribly surprising that, I will show off the game real quick.
Thank you, Marty.
Yeah. I mean, you probably saw it if you were here for the like roundtable.
But we have new people now.
Okay.
Another sale hinges on this demo.
And this is my like $20 case.
Is there a story in the game, or why are you?
Is there a story? There's like 10 lines of text, I think, ever. Okay. So, oh wait, shoot, I just did the wrong thing. I accidentally said I want to connect to my computer, but I did not want to connect to the computer. Damn it! Okay. All right, can you see my?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, here you all are. The entire audience, what do we have, like 15 people? Yeah. Okay, so if I look kind of up a little bit, there's this menu, here's the actual, these are all my apps, and they're all in alphabetical order. There is no way to reorder them yet. Again, half finished. So I already have it open. But here's the main menu. Oh, and there's in the App Store version, there's only one play button. There's only one game mode, but now there's 3 game modes. That was something I added in 15 minutes this afternoon. So the standard game looks like this. It's like 5 by 8. Oh no, it's not. Oh, this is one of the new game modes. Actually, let's. Oh, and here this is pretty fun. My menu is hidden behind this block. That's cool.
We don't see.
I can't.
It can't be a prison if you can get out.
Well, I guess.
I think you can break that red arrow. Oh, something will fall inside.
Yeah, here we go. But then something will fall in. I can break this one. And I can break this one. Move it closer to me. Oh, but the game's over. So one of these columns got too high, and then the game's over. But I'm gonna go back to the menu, and actually I'm gonna close this, and then I'm gonna do shoot. Does anyone remember what the keyboard shortcut is? There's like it's not keyboard obviously. The shortcut to close apps. Force quits. Okay. So I realized that I had to do that because my standard game does not specify the size, and these other two specify the size. And then I thought like, oh wait, the last game I played was one of the other two. So when I open the standard game, it's going to use the size from the previous one. So that's you guys didn't know, but you were seeing a bug. So this is the real size, the normal size of the game.
Okay.
And it looks like that. And you can see like the geometry is like right on top of, even though I think you're closer to me than the blocks.
So what happens if you walk towards the bathroom?
Like just walk right through these.
That's no prison.
It's a prison of the mind.
Okay.
That's right.
In that alternate reality.
Yep. I was happy with how this animation worked. I tried to emulate the animation from the Unity project and was pretty satisfied with that.
So to play the game seriously, you're supposed to be sort of spinning the whole time, right?
Yeah, you want to look around and it's fine.
That wall there to your right looks like it's pretty darn tall.
Find the biggest groups and break them kind of while the other groups are still breaking, because then there's a multiplier. But it's 3 or more. Didn't want to break
You
them.
should put some interesting images behind the wall so you have some incentive to kind of
To see what's happening.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. I think what I'm not going to do is too much more work on this. So here you can see my oh, you have a game in progress. So the reason this window exists is so that you can't just get stuck in the game. No thanks. That's it.
Cool. Thanks for showing.
Thank you, Marty. So Marty, what's your favorite thing to do with your Vision Pro besides programming for it?
No, that's it.
RJ liked his so much you sent it back?
Yeah, I've talked about this before, or I talked about this during the panel that we did, but I do think watching 3D movies is really cool in the headset, I feel like I've never actually seen a 3D movie outside of this headset. I thought I had. You know, I've been to plenty of movies that where I wore the little glasses, and I think most of them I would see like one thing, come in front of my face or something like. But I never really saw a movie that was fully in 3D. Like, I just don't know if they don't work for me, or if there's something about maybe because I was probably never wearing my glasses while I was watching them, or maybe I was in the wrong place in the theater and that influences it.
If you were wearing the glasses, you would have gotten like
Yeah, you would have
nauseous
right away.
the double vision.
It's hard for me to believe you'd haven't done what I've always done, is do a bunch of that while I'm doing it.
Well, no, like I know what I'm saying is I never wear my glasses to the theater.
Oh, the glasses.
Yeah, because I don't really need them. Like, I can see fine, but when I'm working, I have to wear them. And so I have lens inserts in the headset. And so actually, one thing that's interesting is I can see my phone better while I'm wearing the Apple Vision Pro than if I don't have my glasses on and I just look at my phone.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so like viewing 3D content, like movies and motion and stuff is really cool in the headset. I think, it is the best VR screen I've ever seen, for sure, hands down. I wish that I could do all the other things that I love doing in VR, right? Like, I would love to play Blarp in this. I would love to play, all of, the other VR games, right? Like, it's kind of annoying. So I have Disney Plus, and I just started going through, there's like 40 in there, and I just started going through them, and oddly enough, like, I've seen most of the ones that I really wanted to see in the theater, so I watched like the live action Aladdin and was blown away. I'm like, what? It's like the first probably 5 minutes of the live action Aladdin are actually really cool and full of like, scenes that you're like swooping through and like 3D stuff.
So how many hours daily do you spend?
Oh, so I haven't done much since I released the game, to be honest. Like, I think I've probably been in it once a week, maybe for an hour or two.
I wonder if you would develop things like in the real life you would start staring at the objects and expect
Like trying to click things. So the first week that I had it, I used it, probably like 4 to 6 hours a day or something. And I really do think we're gonna reach a point in the future where probably not with a bulky thing on our face, but like with some glasses that have similar, content and stuff, where I would never want to be without it, right? I think that that's the future, and it's probably not that far off, like 10, 20 years.
So I will say, like, not exactly related to that, but like the display in the password and everything is good enough that like there was a few times where I was push some buttons on my computer, deploy it, and put the headset on, and then sat there for like 10 seconds and it didn't quite launch and it was still doing whatever. And I forgot that I was wearing it. I was like, oh wait, did I forget to put it on? And then I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm wearing it.
I'm already got it on.
Because it by default just gives you just the pass-through. Like,
Yep.
it doesn't just show the app launcher like every time you put it on. It just shows the pass-through or whatever you had on or open last. And it was good enough that like until I like actually like looked out the window or looked at, oh yeah, there's static and things. I found it kind of hard to notice that like you're wearing it to some extent.
Yeah.
I might be right. Wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, until you like look at a light or out the window and see like it's overexposed or that there's a little grain on everything. It's pretty good.
So, talking about it being a success or not, is your sense, like, my sense of it was that it's very expensive, and the idea is that they're going to put out one version, and like the enthusiasts, 100,000 people will buy it, but then like the second version would be, get rid of the screen in the front, there's no things like that, and like they make a version that like is considerably cheaper, and that's what actually matters. That was my sense of it. Do you?
I totally agree. Yeah, I think, it's in the name too. Like they have this pro naming scheme for iOS devices as well, right? Where the pro version is more expensive and has a lot more bells and whistles and stuff. So I fully expect that the next version will just be an Apple Vision without the pro, probably half the price is my guess. And if it doesn't come out for a couple of years, it'll probably be better than this too, right? So we'll see. It's just speculation, but I think for sure that they want to bring the price down. But probably not much lower than half the price of it, is my guess, because, you know, they still, like, you know, I buy the latest and greatest phones, and they're over $1,000, right? So they know that people will pay that much, you know, for a device that they want. Of course, I can write it off. Anything else? Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Marty.
All right, thanks everybody on the stream for joining us. That's a wrap for tonight. Can we use your laptop for 1 second? Oh, you're gonna Google Map us? We like to go to a place 8 minutes north.